When you think of iconic Premier League managers, you most likely think of guys like Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp. These managers were all famous for the time they spent with one specific club and the successes and trophies they achieved during their time there. Sir Alex was because of the sheer dominance he had over the Premier League during his time at Manchester United, winning 13 Premier League titles. Pep is famous again for dominating the Premier League and his tactical genius, and Jurgen Klopp for winning Liverpool the Premier League for the first time in 30 years in 2020, and winning other major trophies during his time at the club. However, in the lower leagues of English football, there is a manager who is iconic and famous for the complete opposite reasons, and has been in 20 different managerial jobs during his 44-year managerial career. And the man I am referring to is Neil Warnock. In this video, we're going to be looking at the history of Neil Warnock, the clubs he's managed over the years, and what makes him such an iconic and loved manager in the EFL, most specifically the Championship. Also, really quickly, uploads may slow down and become less frequent in the next few months as I have my A-levels coming up, but I'll be uploading once every 2 weeks once they're finished in June. And if you like this video, then do leave a like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. So by all means, enjoy this video, but enjoy it
by being fucking disciplined here.
Neil Warnock was born in December 1948 and began his professional playing career at Chesterfield in 1967, before playing for teams such as Rotherham, Scunthorpe, Barnsley and Crewe Alexandra. His playing career ended when he was 33 at Burton Albion, where he was a player-manager, but decided to focus fully on management for the rest of his time at Burton. His inspiration for taking up managing came from his manager during his time at Hartlepool United. After managing Burton, he then went on to Scarborough, where he won the conference title in 1987 to get them promoted to the Football League. After Scarborough, he took a big leap up and became manager of Notts County, the biggest club he had managed up to this point. When he joined, Notts County were in Division 3, the third tier of English football, and in his first season he got them promoted to Division 2. Things got even better for Warnock and Notts County, as the club achieved a back-to-back promotion to the First Division. Neil Warnock had started to make a name for himself, and received managerial offers from Chelsea and Sunderland. Warnock turned these offers down, hoping to make a bigger name for himself at the Magpies, but was unfortunately unable to keep them up, and was sacked in January 1993. He then had a very brief spell at Torquay United a month later, who were at risk of relegation out of the Football League, but was able to keep them up. He then left at the end of the season. Warnock resumed his managerial career at Huddersfield Town in July 1993. He signed plenty of new players during his first season, but it ended in disappointment as they finished 11th in Division 2. However, despite this, Warnock did take Huddersfield to the EFL Trophy final, where they lost on penalties to Swansea City. The next season, Warnock's side were genuine automatic promotion contenders for most of the season. However, a downturn in form in the last few games of the season saw them fall down to 5th, so ended up in the playoffs. They beat Brentford in the first leg and went on to beat Bristol Rovers in the final at Wembley Stadium, and were promoted to Division 1, the Championship. However, he left the club just days later after their promotion, and made a quick return to management at Plymouth Argyle, who had just been relegated to Division 3. In his first season, Argyle finished 4th and won the playoffs to get promoted to Division 2, but in February 1997, surprisingly he was sacked despite him being very popular among supporters. His next two clubs were Oldham Athletic and Bury, and didn't have such a good time there as he was relegated with both of these clubs at the end of the 90s. Despite these relegations, Neil Warnock was considered a great manager and someone who could turn things round at a club. He'd managed to make a name for himself, and this showed as in December 1999 he was appointed as manager of his boyhood club Sheffield United. In the 2002-03 season, Neil Warnock took Sheffield United to the semi-finals of both the League Cup and FA Cup, and also the First Division playoff final, where his side lost 3-0 to Wolves, which was actually the first time Warnock had lost in the playoffs, as he'd achieved promotion 4 times via this route. In the 2004-05 season, there was a behind-the-scenes documentary made covering Neil Warnock's time at the club during this season. This is where some of the iconic clips of Neil Warnock come from, and this documentary really showed his passion for the game, and this contributed to him being such a liked and iconic manager. The next season, Warnock got promoted to the Premier League, finishing runners-up behind Reading. In their first season in the Prem, Neil Warnock's side looked as though they would be able to stay up, but on the final day of the season, fellow relegation battlers West Ham and Wigan both won, and this caused Sheffield United to be relegated to the Championship. After this relegation, Warnock then stepped down as manager, and his longest ever managerial job came to an end. In October 2007, after initially not being keen on the job, Neil Warnock became manager of Crystal Palace. In his first season, Warnock turned Palace around from being relegation battlers to playoff contenders and ended the season in 5th. but lost to Bristol City in the semis. However, in the next few seasons, the club was in financial issues, and this heavily restricted Warnock's ability to sign the players he wanted. His contract at the club was terminated in 2010 after saying that he didn't have the stomach to fight for the club. In March 2010, he joined fellow London club QPR, where he guided the club comfortably away from potential relegation in the 2009/10 season. The next season he built a side around talented, skillful midfielder Adel Taarabt, and once again Neil Warnock showed his managerial class as QPR dominated the Championship for the majority of the season and were promoted to the Premier League as champions, with Adel Taarabt being key to their promotion push. Warnock had struggled with Premier League survival in the past, and QPR's first season back in the Premier League was no different, as he was sacked halfway through the season, with QPR sitting on the edge of the relegation zone in 17th. However, overall, Neil Warnock left the club on a high note, saying that he left the club with a great sense of pride with what he'd achieved. A brief stint at Leeds United ended after a year, with the club sitting just outside the relegation zone. After this, Neil Warnock returned to Crystal Palace in 2014, where he had the task of keeping them up in the Premier League. However, the club were in the bottom three by December, and he was sacked. In February 2016, Neil Warnock was announced as Rotherham United manager for the rest of the season, with the club looking for him to turn their season around and save them from relegation. During his time at the club, he went on an 11-match unbeaten run and won Manager of the Month for March. By the end of the season, Warnock had saved Rotherham from relegation and were 9 points clear of the drop. However, Warnock left the club after not being able to agree a contract extension. In October 2016, Neil Warnock became manager of Welsh side Cardiff City, and in his 36-year-long managerial career, this was the first club he'd managed outside of England. His first season at the club ended in a 12th place finish, but in his next season, Warnock showed why he is such a good manager and guided Cardiff to promotion to the Premier League, finishing second behind Wolves, which was his 8th promotion of his managerial career. Halfway through the season in January 2019, Cardiff City made a club record £15 million signing of striker Emiliano Sala from FC Nantes. However, tragically, Sala died on the flight from Nantes to Cardiff due to the pilot not being qualified to fly the plane and there being mechanical issues on board. Neil Warnock admitted that he considered retiring from managing after the accident occurred, and Cardiff went down at the end of the season. Following a poor start to the 2019-20 season, Warnock resigned as manager only 3 months in, but he left knowing he had done a great job at Cardiff and described it as one of the best jobs he'd had in his career. After a 7-month break, in June 2020 Warnock was back into managing, this time at Middlesbrough, who were just outside the relegation zone when he joined. They ended the season in 17th and steered them clear of the drop. The next season he broke the record for the most games managed in English professional football at 1,601. However, he left the club by mutual consent in November 2021, and he announced his retirement from management after 42 years. Oh wait, he's not quite done yet, as 10 months later in February 2023, he came out of retirement to return as manager of Huddersfield Town after initially joining 30 years before. The club were in a relegation scrap and needed the expertise and experience of Neil Warnock to help them survive. Championship master Neil Warnock was able to work his magic and took them all the way up to 18th, with a 1-0 win against second place finishers Sheffield United to secure their championship survival. Warnock signed a 1-year contract extension with the club before leaving only 8 games into the next season. Now, his most recent job has been at Aberdeen, his first managerial job outside of English football. It's fair to say his time at the club didn't last very long, as he lasted just over a month and didn't win a single league game, and he ended up stepping down as manager. Neil Warnock's 44-year managerial career has seen him manage many different clubs, and over the years he's gained respect and has become an icon in the English footballing scene. He's a great character, and there's been some funny moments of him over the years that have helped make him such a likeable person. His passion and love for the game are clear to see. He wouldn't have been managing for 40 plus years if he didn't enjoy it, and he's become especially iconic in England's second tier, the Championship, because he's just so good at managing in that division, and he's just become known for being a Championship manager. He's even started doing punditry on the Championship for Sky Sports, which fits him perfectly because of the sheer experience and knowledge he has of that division, and chances are he's going to end up making another return to managing at some point. So thank you for watching, please like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and I'll catch you in the next one.